When we got our marriage license, Jason Dawson told me he didn't know how to love. So for 5 years, he gave me his body and his desire, but never his heart. It was a marriage between families. I knew I couldn't ask for more, and I thought that would be enough. Until our anniversary night, when I broke his rule in bed and took off the blindfold. That was the first time I saw the name tattooed on his lower back. In that instant, I realized Jason wasn't incapable of love. He had just hidden it away, saving it for my sister. We fought like hell that night, screaming like we wanted each other dead. And maybe we got our wish our car plunged off a cliff. As we lay there bleeding out, Jason looked at me with blood streaming down his face and whispered, "Isabel, if there's a next life, let's not be husband and wife again, okay?" I stared at him with a twisted smile, half mad. Then I opened my eyes again and saw Jason on his knees, straight-backed and solemn. "Uncle, Auntie," he said, "I can't marry Isabel. I'm in love with Latina Lopez." I froze for a second, but then felt oddly at peace. This time, I didn't want him either. "Are you sure you want to marry Luke?" Mrs. Dawson asked, clearly torn. I quietly exchanged marriage contracts with her, checked that the name said Luke Dawson, and smiled. "Yes, Auntie, I'm sure." Mrs. Dawson tried one more time to persuade me. "All the fortune tellers said Luke won't live past 30. You? Isabel? Even if Jason refuses the alliance, that doesn't mean you have to choose another Dawson. In our past life, Luke really did die at 30. Mrs. Dawson fainted from crying, and Mr. Dawson aged overnight. Everyone mourned him. He was brilliant young, yet already the key figure in the Dawson family. Beneath that frail body was the steadiest heart. Before he died, I tried to visit him one last time and heard him say, "I like Isabel Lopez. She doesn't need to know anything I've done. I just want her to be okay." He said not all love needs to be spoken. Not all love expects a return. And so, year after year, no one but his assistant ever knew. He buried it so deep. I never sensed a thing until he died with that love still unspoken. So even if it's just for that one, I like her. I want to help him. I want him to have no regrets this time. After a long pause, I smiled and gently patted her hand. "Auntie, Luke's gonna live a long, full life." After Mrs. Dawson left, my own mother came to me. "You're not just doing this out of spite for Jason, are you?" She knew how much I loved him. We grew up together, and once my heart opened to him, no other boy ever stood a chance. I thought he felt the same. Turns out, I was just deluding myself. In our past life, when Jason and I got our license, he told me, "I've lived in schemes since I was a child. I don't know how to love, but whatever I can give, I'll give to you." For 5 years, we were the picture-perfect couple, admired by everyone. So, I tried to make it work. I even taught him how to love. I tolerated his whims, even his bedroom quirks. Before every time we made love, he'd hand me a blindfold or tie one on with his necktie. He'd say, "Your eyes are too beautiful, Isabel. I'm afraid I'll lose control and hurt you." I used to blush all the way to my ears. A few times he forgot the blindfold. I was excited, hoping to see him moved by passion. But instead, he'd just sweetly coax me to change positions, then kiss down my back, gently, reverently. We almost never made eye contact. I thought it was just his habit. Until our 5th anniversary, I secretly took off the blindfold and saw the name inked into his back. Shame and betrayal crashed over me. I went berserk, smashing everything in the bedroom, grabbing an ashtray and hurling it at him. I screamed the vilest things I could think of, cursed him to hell. But if I had a second chance, I wouldn't do anything. I'd just walk away. The truth is, Jason treated me well. He just didn't love me. The engagement party was set for next month. Mrs. Dawson said their family would take care of everything. I just needed to be ready. She even gave me the option to back out anytime. I gave a tired smile and said, "That's not fair to Luke. He's just sick." I messaged the lab assistant at the institute, told them to prepare the equipment. Last time, after Luke had his heart transplant, I buried myself in antibiotic research. The drug was ready, but he died from an infection before we could use it. I hope this time we're not too late. Then, out of nowhere, Jason texted, "Come to Club 9. I need to talk." I declined immediately. The first thing Jason did after his rebirth was call off our engagement and confess to my adopted sister, Latina. To impress her, he set off fireworks all night. They've been trending ever since. Everyone's calling them a perfect match. A paparazzo even filmed them walking by the beach. Latina pouted and said she was tired. Asked Jason to carry her. I thought he'd say no. But he didn't. He just smiled tenderly, knelt down, gently massaged her ankle, then carried her on his back. His movements were smooth and loving. A netizen commented, "Young Master Jason is absolutely smitten with Latina. He's been glued to her side ever since, treating her like a princess. He's doing everything he can to make up for past regrets. He wants a different life. I don't mind as long as it has nothing to do with me." But in the end, I still went to Club 9. Not for Jason. I wanted to see Luke. His assistant had called me back. "Miss Isabel, Mr. Luke is discussing business at Club 9. If it's urgent, you can come directly." I frowned instinctively and teased, "Drinking when you're that sick? Is he in a hurry to die?" The line went silent. Just a soft cough in the background. Then the assistant quickly gave me a room number before hanging up. To my surprise, Jason had clearly expected me. He'd stationed people at the entrance. As soon as I showed up, 2 bodyguards dragged me straight to Jason's room. They shoved open the door and forced me to my knees. Cold seeped through my bones from the marble floor. That familiar wave of humiliation crashed over me again. I clenched my fists and glared at the man in front of me. "Jason, are you out of your damn mind?" The room was dim, shadows curling in the corners. Jason lit a cigarette, took a drag, and blew out a slow stream of smoke. "I didn't want it to come to this," he said, "but you wouldn't cooperate. You refused to cancel the engagement. So don't blame me for playing dirty." My mind went completely blank. Our wedding had been called off long ago. Did he really not know? I instinctively struggled, trying to explain, but Jason had already stepped in front of me. He held a glass of liquor and grabbed my chin. "Don't blame me, Isabel. I just want to live the life I want. Once you're tainted, they won't force me to marry you anymore." I stared into Jason's eyes, sorrow bleeding through mine. My chest ached like it was being ripped apart. All those years as childhood friends, 5 years of marriage meant absolutely nothing. "So what's the plan? Drug me and throw me into someone else's bed?" For a second, Jason looked dazed. His lips pressed tightly together, and his hand paused for just a moment. But then he forced the drink down my throat. "The Dawson family's been busy prepping our engagement party. I can't wait any longer. I found you a decent young master, someone who'll take responsibility, someone who'll marry you." "You're insane, Jason!" "You're completely insane." I fought him with everything I had, but the 2 bodyguards behind me were too strong. There was no way to break free. The alcohol burned as it flooded down my throat. I coughed violently, face turning crimson, and the spilled liquor soaked through my blouse, clinging to my skin. "Be good, Isabel," Jason murmured softly, reaching out to wipe the wet corner of my mouth. The bodyguards had finally released me. Gasping, still disheveled, I leaned weakly on the floor. My eyes welled with tears from the sheer physical reaction, and I gave a bitter, self-deprecating smile. "Jason, I never said I'd marry you, and I won't," he chuckled coldly. "You really won't? Isabel, I know you too well. I know how much you like me. That's why this is the only way." Suddenly, Latina appeared at the door. She clutched the hem of her dress, eyes fixed on me, her voice trembling. "Sis, Jason, you too." Jason froze, the smile on his lips vanishing. "Latina, why are you here?" He hurried over to her, flustered. "Who brought you here? This place is filthy. You shouldn't be here." His tone turned gentle, movements soft and careful. In that moment, he looked like a devout believer, his eyes brimming with genuine love. A look I had never seen on him before. It hit me, love or not, the line was so clear. I stared at him for a long time, a deep ache swelling in my chest. People are strange creatures. In our last life, after Jason and I got married, Latina left the country and never returned. Now, he was obsessed with making up for lost time. But if he had wanted to marry her back then, who could have stopped him? If he truly loved her, a plane ticket to the US cost less than $3,000. Did he ever go? No. Sometimes I don't know whether to be grateful that he was loyal to me in our past life, or to pity him for being a coward. Jason coaxed Latina to leave with him. She bit her lip and said nothing, her eyes unreadable as they lingered on me. In the end, I was left alone. The drug kicked in quickly. Jason had stationed the bodyguards at the door, waiting for that suitable young master to arrive. I bit my lip and struggled to my feet using the table, but my legs were too weak. I stumbled, about to fall, when a strong arm caught me from behind. "Careful, Miss Isabel," said a familiar voice. It was Luke's assistant. I was panting slightly, cheeks flushed. Jason had drugged me heavily enough to break my defenses. "You've been drugged, Miss Isabel." I didn't respond. I just reached shakily for a wine bottle on the table. With a loud crash, I smashed it, raising a shard of glass to slash my arm, when Luke, seated in his wheelchair, grabbed my wrist. His brows furrowed deeply. "I've got a doctor with me. Please don't hurt yourself." I froze, pupils dilated. Luke's hand was cold but soft. It stirred something deep inside me, something desperate and hungry. I leaned closer to him, staring at his lips. "Mr. Luke, can I kiss you?" I blinked slowly. Luke's fingers trembled. Behind him, his assistant coughed in panic. "Miss Isabel, our bosses condition it might not." Before he could finish, I paused, then slowly nodded. Reason won over desire. Luke gave his assistant a cool glance. The man cleared his throat and quickly left to fetch the doctor. His people had already cleared out the guards outside, and even turned away the young master from the Smith family. After half an hour of chaos, the drug was finally wearing off. I slumped on the couch, still weak. Luke's brows remained furrowed. "I didn't know Jason would go this far. I'm sorry. I didn't think this through." His eyes were full of guilt. Luke and Jason polar opposites. One was gentle, polite, refined. The other, wild and arrogant. Life had been cruel to let the good one die at 30. I stayed silent, and Luke's expression darkened. "Miss Isabel, I'll make Jason apologize. This won't be the end of it. He'll pay for what he did." Just then, I looked up and caught a flicker of something in Luke's eyes. He was angry because Jason had hurt me. In our past life, I'd accidentally overheard that he liked me. I never told anyone. I just buried it deep inside. But now I suddenly wanted to ask him why. The question slipped out before I could stop it. Luke froze. "What did you say, Miss Isabel?" I repeated it. "I want to know, why does Mr. Luke like me?" The assistant got the hint and quietly left the room. Now it was just the two of us. Luke's lips tightened into a line. A long silence followed. He didn't answer my question. Instead, he asked, "What about you? Why did you choose to marry me? They all say I won't live past 30. His voice was hoarse, like he had mustered all his courage. "Because you're a good man," I said, leaning toward him, fingers brushing his furrowed brow. "Those fortune tellers are wrong. Luke, smile for me and I swear you'll live to be 100. Everyone said you wouldn't live past 30, but I want you to live a long, healthy life, Luke. I want you to stay alive." Luke pressed his lips together, eyes locked on mine. For a moment, it seemed like the emotions he'd been holding back were about to break free, but just as quickly, he buried them again. "Thank you for the blessing, Miss Isabel," I said. "Luke, trust me, just this once." He was silent for a long time. Then finally, he nodded. With data from the previous life's experiments and the support of both the Jiang and Dawson families, the new antibiotic could be ready for production as early as next week. I prayed the heavens would be kinder to Luke this time. Our engagement date had been moved. It was almost time to send out the invitations. And yet, Jason still thought I was marrying him. Because of the drugging incident, Jason had received 30 lashes and was confined for 5 days. The moment he was released, he rushed straight to my house. When I came downstairs and saw the butler greeting him, I instinctively frowned. He looked pale, not quite well. The moment he saw me, he walked right up. "Isabel," he said. I instinctively took a step back. He paused, then pretended not to notice and kept talking. "What I did, drugging you, it was reckless. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have humiliated you like that." Jason lowered his head in apology. I gave him a faint smile, but there wasn't a trace of warmth in my eyes. "No need to apologize, Jason. It's better if we go our separate ways. Let's try not to run into each other again." Jason immediately shook his head. "Isabel, I was wrong. I swear it won't happen again. If my brother hadn't saved you that day, I might have done something I could never undo. I truly regret it. I shouldn't have trampled on your feelings. I know how much you wanted to marry me. I know what I meant to you, and—" He stopped mid-sentence, as if making some great decision. Then, after a long silence, he said in a hoarse voice, "Isabel, I'll marry you, as compensation for what I did to you." The living room fell silent. I stared at Jason, cold laughter rising in my chest. At some point, Latina had appeared at the staircase, her eyes red-rimmed, voice trembling with hurt. "Jason, what about me? Didn't you say you wanted to marry me? How could you go back on your word?" Panic flashed across Jason's face. He glanced at me, then brushed past and went to Latina. "Latina, I'm sorry. It's just, Isabel is deeply in love with me. I don't want to hurt her." Latina began to sob harder. Jason looked even more frantic, fumbling to comfort her. See how much he loved Latina? And I looked like the villain ruining their love. I didn't want to be part of their drama anymore. I turned to leave and heard Jason's voice behind me. "Isabel, I won't take it back." I gave a scornful laugh, but I'd already taken it back long ago. If I could go back, I'd wish I'd never met Jason at all. After calming Latina down, Jason sat in her room, lost in thought. He'd grown up with Isabel. She liked him, always treated him well. After they got married, she treated him even better. She even accepted all his strange bedroom rules without question. He thought that kind of life might be enough. Until Isabel discovered the tattoo on his back. Back when he was 15, he'd once seen Latina dancing in the school studio. That glimpse of her through white gauze, ethereal and stunning, haunted him ever since. She filled his dreams every night. He had once thought about confessing to her, but in Latina's eyes, he never existed. As long as Isabel was there, Latina only saw her, always her. And so he played the obedient adopted brother, afraid to trouble Latina with his feelings. So he buried them deep, tattooed her name on his lower back. 10 years passed, and he never forgot that dance, never forgot Latina. In the past life, if Isabel hadn't insisted on fighting and arguing, they wouldn't have ended up dying together in that car crash. He was lucky to be reborn. This time, he wouldn't leave regrets. So he asked Isabel for a divorce. So he confessed to Latina. He did everything he could to break off the engagement he even drugged Isabel. But for some reason, he still felt empty. He wasn't as happy as he thought he'd be. 30 lashes, 3 days of confinement. And suddenly, he realized he still wanted to marry Isabel. Even if he loved Latina. "Jason, do you really like my sister?" Latina's voice pulled him from his thoughts. He blinked and looked at her tear-stained eyes, feeling a pang in his chest. "I don't like Isabel," he said gently. "I only like you." "But if you don't like her, then why do you want to marry her?" Jason pressed his lips together. He didn't have an answer. He only knew he couldn't let Isabel go. She loved him, so she should be his. Before he could reply, Latina asked again, "Then Jason, what do you like about me?" His lips curled immediately. He couldn't wait to tell her all his secrets. "When I was young, I saw you dancing in the studio by accident. From that moment, I couldn't forget you. You could call it love at first sight." But as soon as he said it, Latina's expression shifted. She stared at him, eyes brimming with what should have been love, but she just felt it was laughable because she didn't know how to dance. For a split second, Jason caught a flash of disgust in her gaze. But when he looked again, she was smiling softly, like always, delicate and sweet. "Jason, thank you for liking me." There were only 5 days left before the engagement party. The new drug trials were going well, and a matching heart was being sourced. I had just taken off my goggles and stepped out of the lab when I saw Luke waiting outside. He sat in his wheelchair. The autumn chill had settled in the capital. He had a blanket draped over his knees. His face was still pale, but there was more color than when I first met him. I bent down close to him with a teasing smile. "Looks like my drug is working. Mr. Luke, since I'm throwing money to keep you alive, how about you repay me with your body?" Luke's ears flushed red. He coughed lightly, turned his face away, and motioned for his assistant to hand me the invitation. I took it, and only then did he reply, "All right." I chuckled under my breath and opened the invitation. My gaze landed on our name sand. I froze for a beat. A strange, indescribable emotion surged through me. In my past life, Jason and I's engagement party had been entirely planned by our mothers. The Dawson family offered a generous dowry, but compared to what Luke gave me in this life, it wasn't even a fraction. He had practically handed over his whole estate. I recognized his handwriting. I even complimented whoever had written the invitation, never imagining it had been Luke himself. I couldn't even begin to imagine what Luke must have felt, writing my name beside Jason's. Was it a sincere blessing or silent heartbreak? Seeing me frozen, Luke grew concerned. "Is something wrong with the wording? It's my first time writing one. My mother wanted a professional to do it, but I thought something like this should be done personally." He frowned. Even his assistant couldn't bear it anymore. Luke, despite his status, despite his frailty, had never lowered his head to anyone. But for me, he was always so careful, so humble. Just because he liked me. Miss Isabel, Mr. Luke spent several days writing that invitation, even if you don't like it. I never said I didn't. I cut him off calmly, then turned to Luke. Your handwriting is beautiful. And with that, I gave him a smile. Only then did Luke's tense expression begin to soften, a faint smile creeping into his eyes. He opened his mouth to speak, but was interrupted by an unexpected visitor. Bro, what are you doing here? Jason's suspicious gaze landed on Luke. Then, his eyes caught the invitation in my hand, and he raised a brow. You really should have let an assistant handle delivering invites. Your health isn't good, you didn't need to go through all this. He stepped around Luke and, as if nothing had changed, reached out to take my hand. I pulled away. His hand froze midair. Isabel? Jason. Maybe take a look at the name on the invitation first. I handed it to him. The engagement between the Liu and Jiang families had been the talk of the city for weeks. How Jason remained so oblivious, I couldn't understand. He still hadn't realized I wasn't marrying him. Maybe it finally clicked. He opened the invitation. The next second, his expression went stiff. When he saw the names written inside, he looked at me, stunned. You're marrying Luke? Isabel, are you out of your mind? Everyone says he won't live past 30. And you still want to marry him? Are you planning to become a widow on your wedding day? He growled, face flushed with fury. Luke sat quietly in his wheelchair. His dark eyes flickered with a storm of emotions. But in the end, he said nothing. He had always been the humble one in this relationship, so humble, he didn't dare hope for anything. I wished he would say, Isabel is my fiancée. She's your sister-in-law. But he just looked at me, the light in his eyes slowly fading. Isabel, I know you're mad at me, but you can't use your marriage to get back at me, Jason snapped, gritting his teeth. I stayed calm. This isn't about revenge, Jason. I've told you many times I'm not going to marry you. I don't love you anymore. You just assumed I would. You like Latina. I stepped aside. So now I'm marrying Luke. Just stay out of it, will you? The moment I finished speaking, Jason stood there, frozen, his eyes bloodshot. His lips parted, stunned. He couldn't believe I said that. Couldn't believe that the girl who once loved him so deeply didn't anymore. After a long pause, he clenched his jaw and muttered stubbornly, You're lying, Isabel. You're lying. I didn't respond. He knew the truth. He just didn't want to face it. Jason tore the invitation in half and stormed out. He still refused to believe that this engagement had nothing to do with him. But I owed him no explanations. This life, he'd chosen the path he always wanted. He had no right to regret it. Actually, Jason wasn't wrong, Luke finally said after a long silence. His eyes were hard to read. I didn't answer. Truthfully, I was disappointed. Luke didn't believe he could survive, and so he didn't believe in me either. On the ride home, I noticed Luke's gaze drifting toward me several times, but I didn't look back. I kept my eyes on the window. When we reached the Jiang family villa and I opened the door to get out, Luke finally spoke again. Like a child who'd done something wrong, he asked softly, Isabel, are you mad at me? I turned to look at him without saying a word. He spoke seriously. If I upset you, I'm sorry. But please believe me, I didn't mean to. I asked him, Luke, do you not believe I can help you live? He froze. I let out a quiet laugh. I understand. The engagement party's 5 days away. You can cancel it any time. This time, the choice is yours." Then I got out and walked away. I knew Luke was watching me, but I didn't turn back. Maybe we're all guilty of arrogance. Jason was, and so was I. I thought I could help him. I thought marrying him would spare him regret. But maybe I never asked, did Luke even want that? At the Jiang Villa, the lights were bright. As soon as I stepped inside, I saw Jason kneeling before my mother just like the day he was reborn. Only that time, he was begging to cancel our marriage. This time, it was the opposite. "Auntie, I was immature. I shouldn't have insisted on calling off the engagement with Isabel. Everything was my fault. But you can't let her marry my brother." His drama with Latina had already made the rounds. My mother had long given up on him. She hadn't been thrilled about Luke at first either, but Luke proved himself. He'd handled every detail of the engagement himself. She could see clearly now who truly cared for me. She frowned, ready to send Jason away. Then she saw me. I smiled and told her I'd handle it. She nodded and went upstairs, leaving just the two of us in the living room. Jason stood up, bracing himself against the table. His knees gave slightly. He'd been kneeling too long. I frowned. "I thought I'd made myself clear. Why are you here again?" Jason hesitated, looking wounded. "Isabel, I'm just trying to do what's best for you." "What's best for me?" I let out a short, cold laugh. Then I stepped toward him. "Jason, you like Latina, don't you? You got what you wanted. We broke off the engagement. You can marry her now. So, what more do you want?" The words had barely left my mouth when Jason's breathing hitched. He looked lost. "I don't know. I thought that's how it was supposed to be. But who can't watch you marry Luke?" His eyes burned into mine, glinting red. I found it laughable. Jason had always been the golden boy. He lived recklessly, because someone was always there to clean up after him. He never learned to put himself in someone else's shoes. I'll never forget the night a typhoon hit the city. Jason insisted on having a cake from Southside. I had no choice but to drive 4 hours in the storm to get it. I got home after midnight and I'd forgotten my key. I called him over and over. He didn't pick up. Later he said he'd fallen asleep, but I knew he hadn't. It was just cold, and he didn't feel like getting out of bed. The cake was just a whim. But if he wanted something, I had to get it. Why? Because I loved Jason? So I had to dig through broken glass just to find a piece of sugar? Loving him was exhausting. I had done it for 10 years. I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't want to. Finally, I said weakly, "Jason, you can't have it both ways." "But you love me. Choosing Luke, that's just settling, isn't it? You've loved me for so long. You can't just stop." I don't believe it. Jason looked at me, unwilling to accept it. I just smirked coldly. "Why don't you get it? I stopped loving you a long time ago." The living room went dead silent. Jason pressed his lips together, saying nothing for a long time. His pain was written all over his face. I brushed past him to leave. Suddenly, he grabbed my arm and asked softly, cautiously, "Isabel, did you come back too?" I froze, but I didn't deny it. Jason seemed to understand instantly. A bitter smile twisted his lips as he gripped my arm so tightly his knuckles turned white. I frowned slightly. Tears welled up in his eyes. No wonder you didn't choose me this time. Isabel, if you came back too, then you already know Luke will die at 30. So why him? Why would you rather pick him over me?" His voice cracked into a low roar, his whole body trembling. His sudden outburst stirred something sour in my chest. Jason didn't cry often. The only time I'd ever seen him cry was right before we died, his face bloodied, begging me in desperation, "If there's a next life, Let's not be married again. Please? But now, look at us. I already agreed to that. I already kept my word. And yet Jason still wasn't satisfied. He always wanted too much more than I could give. Go home, Jason. He shook his head violently, like a child throwing a tantrum, trying to cling to me the way he used to. But Jason had forgotten only, the loved get to be reckless. I'm not leaving, Isabel. Give me another chance, just one more. I won't make any more mistakes. I won't hurt you again. I liked Latina for so many years. I thought I'd always like her. But I realized it's different. I don't know what to do. I only know that without you, I'll really die. The more he spoke, the more pained he looked. He crept toward me like I was something fragile. When he reached for my hand, I stepped away and looked him in the eyes. This was your choice, Jason. No one waits forever. So don't blame me. And don't regret it. The moment I finished speaking, all the color drained from his face. He was escorted out of the villa, but he didn't leave. He stood in the courtyard, eyes fixed stubbornly on the tightly shut door. Latina came outside to speak to him. No one knew what she said, but Jason snapped, wrapped his hands around her neck, furious and wild, until a passing security guard broke them apart. Latina gasped for breath, finally free. No one knew what she told him, but that night, she came to see me. She knocked softly on my door. Sis, can I come in? I raised an eyebrow, glanced up at her, and nodded. There were still red marks on her neck Jason's doing. I'd found Latina outside my school when I was 8 and she was 6. Small, dirty, and frail. I begged my mother to adopt her, to make her my sister. Over the years, I treated her well. Whatever I had, she had too. And when people mocked her for flaunting my name, she bared her teeth and fought back. I always knew Latina wasn't a kind person, but she'd never hurt me. She walked over gently, her voice soft and sweet. Sis, is it because of what happened at the club the other day that you haven't talked to me? I paused, then smiled. No. Luke had already told me they'd found me in time thanks to Latina's message. Sis, Jason isn't someone worth trusting. I knew you didn't want to marry him. So I just pretended to play along, she said. She paused, eyes flickering with a flash of disgust. I just wanted to help you get rid of him. He doesn't deserve you. I looked at her quietly, lips pressed into a line. In our past life, Latina didn't even attend my wedding to Jason. She left the country and sent only a wedding gift. We barely spoke after that. So I never saw her as a rival, not in the past life, not now. I never blamed her. She hadn't done anything wrong. The one at fault was always Jason. After a while, I asked, "What did you say to him?" Latina's expression stiffened. She reached out and hooked her pinky around mine with a playful smile. Doesn't matter. What matters is that annoying jerk finally left. I nodded slowly, unsure. In the days that followed, Jason didn't appear again. I thought he'd finally given up. But on the day of the engagement party, he suddenly burst into the dressing room, then locked the door behind him. He held me tightly like a lost child, sobbing uncontrollably. His complexion was even worse than before, face pale, eyes bloodshot. He kept repeating over and over, "I was wrong, Isabel. I was wrong. I was blind. I chose wrong. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I let you down." Only then did I realize what Latina had said to him. Jason lifted his shirt, looking up at me with trembling eyes. The tattoo on his lower back had been removed, and replaced with my name. In that moment, I felt nothing but pity and disgust. Jason begged me for forgiveness, begged me for another chance. But I said nothing. I just stared quietly at the boy I had loved for 10 years. Fate really had a twisted sense of humor. In the end, Jason had to be dragged out by security, unconscious. The day before the engagement, Luke came to see me. He didn't say a word, didn't do anything, just sat with me in the lab all day, quietly helping where he could. After work, he asked me to dinner. In our past life, we barely knew each other. Aside from formal family events, we hardly interacted. I once asked him why he liked me. He never answered. But that night, he did. 15 years old. One unforgettable glimpse. When I heard that, my heart skipped a beat. He said, "It's not that I didn't believe in you. I just didn't believe in myself. Isabel, no one wants to live more than I do, and no one wants your happiness more than I do." He was scared. Scared that if he died at 30, what would become of me? How would I live through all those years alone? He feared the dark, feared me facing it by myself. Even if he prepared everything in advance, he feared something would be left undone. Later I realized, I had thought there was no connection between me and Luke, but only because he hid everything so well. Every anonymous grant the Institute received, every flawless event arrangement I experienced, every birthday gift that felt just right. Even the grand wedding from my past life, the one-of-a-kind dress, the personally designed ring. Jason thought it was just Luke being a supportive older brother. But no one knew Luke had poured his heart into every step. He had walked so far, all alone. Thankfully, this time, I saw it. Half a month after the engagement party, Luke successfully underwent heart transplant surgery. The new drug caused no adverse effects. In our past life, he died on the 20th day post-op from infection. But this time, he lived. 3 months later, the entire Dawson family was overwhelmed with joy. In the hospital room, Luke leaned back on the bed, eyes resting on me. Years of silent, buried affection surged to the surface. His eyes were rimmed red. After a long pause, he finally said, "Isabel, thank you." I smiled, leaning in slightly. Just like that time at the club, I reached out and touched his brow. "I told you smile, and I promise you'll live a long, happy life." At that, Luke smiled. 6 months later, I saw Jason one last time. He'd been sentenced to 3 years for drunk driving and injuring someone. The once golden boy had fallen into the mud. No one would clean up after him anymore. Like in our past life, Latina left the country the day before my wedding to Luke. She left a wedding gift behind. The curtain finally closed on that farce, and Luke and Ino longer had to walk alone.